This moment that has brought us together, this incredible person who has brought us together, Neil Belenky, is one that's filled with a mixture. A mixture of emotions, a mixture of realities. It's a beautiful day today. It's a day in which many celebrations are taking place. The sun is out. And yet we recognize that our world and our lives have lost one of the more vital links in our chain. And if the world feels a little bit darker, that's understandable. And even amongst the sounds of the world around us, if there's silence, that too is understandable. And mixed in between the smiles on our faces, the hugs that we share, surely there are tears. And we feel the loss. And it's at times like this that we turn to one another. We turn to family and friends, community. And we turn to God as a source of support and comfort. Neil did so much throughout his life that united so many. And death can never take that. His companionship, friendship, the way that he shared so much along life's path, those are things that will continue on through the tenderness of memory. A wise man, a good heart, someone who shared joy and happiness, those things will live on. And for all these things and more, we're called upon to be grateful. Grateful to him, grateful to his family, and grateful to God. It's at this time that we listen to the voice of our sacred and eternal scriptures, bringing us the message of God's nearness, even though, understandably, God may feel far off. Telling us of our kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. I'll turn first to the 90th Psalm in translation. God, you've been our refuge in every generation before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world from eternity to eternity. You have been there. What do you say to us? You call us to return. For the days of our years are 70, or by reason of strength 80 years. But 1,000 years to you, O God, are like yesterday when they've passed, like a blink of the eye or a watch in the night. What might we learn from this? That we should number our days, make them count, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. May your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. Or the 15th Psalm, again in translation, God, who it is it that may abide in your house and who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who don't talk bad about others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who keep distance from the lawless, but honor you, O God, and all who revere you, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who don't exploit others or take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. I'd like to ask for our cantor, Mitchell Summers, to come forward. He will sing an excerpt from the 23rd Psalm. After that, if you know the words in translation, we will say it together.
Gam ki elech begein salmavet lo irara Gam ki elech begets al mavet. Lo, lo, irara. Lo, 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 irara. Ki ata imadi. Lo, 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 irara, ki ata imadi.
Together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. You guide me in straight paths for your name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Friends, of all the rabbinic stories, none may be as well known as the one about a scholar whose name was Honi. Honi was well into his adult years when, walking on the way, he saw another grown man planting a carob tree. Honi knew that carobs are slow-growing trees. They take 70 years before they bear any fruit. And so Honi stopped and asked the man planting the carob tree, "Why are you toiling to plant something that you yourself may not live to enjoy?" And the man replied, "I found a fruitful world because my ancestors planted it for me. Likewise, I am planting this carob tree for my descendants so that they will have fruit to eat." There is this idea that one of Judaism's most enduring calls to our people is that we leave our world better than we found it, that we plant so that generations down the line will have something to eat. And if it's not already obvious, caring about the future and about others is why we tell the story of Honi and the carob tree. And caring about the future and others is how Neil Belenky spent nearly every waking moment of his 81-plus year life. Neil was a leader. He was also a leader among leaders. He had that uncanny ability to see things that weren't there yet. And he knew the art. He mastered the art of bringing people together. He was a skilled planner. He knew that his days were numbered. "When my time comes, Rabbi," he told me when we spoke a month ago, "I want things to be simple." And so this morning they will be. And yet with Neil, no matter how much you might plan, there was always a chance that something unexpected and full of blessing would take place. The unexpected part is that today, coincidentally, is Father's Day. And the blessing is that we will hear from one of his sons, from David, who will share words of tribute to the life that his father led. Afterwards, Maggie, one of his two granddaughters, will speak about her papa. I will then return with a few brief remarks. David.
Good morning. It's nice here. It's nice to stand here and look out at all these wonderful and familiar faces. I did not expect to be here in this moment today, nor did my family, nor did you, I'm sure. But here we are. The only comfort our family can take is being with all of you who were able to make the journey near and far to be here today, and with those streaming with us who were unable to travel. By the way, my father would have loved knowing that his service is streaming on the World Wide Web. He would have thought that was very cool. I speak on behalf of my father's wife, Cindy, my two brothers, Erik and Stephen, their wives, Sally and Rachel, and finally, Neil Belenky's granddaughters, Maggie and Miller, to thank everyone for all the warm wishes, messages, the flowers, the food, and all the community support we have received over the last few days. We have been overwhelmed by the love you all have shown and cannot thank you enough for taking care of us over these past few days. I was thinking about a single word to describe my father, a word that could encapsulate who he was, his spirit, his life, in a way that would say, yes, that was Neil Belenky. He would have had suggestions. Hilarious. Sure, he was to me. He would have liked me to say youthful. Sure, he loved to hear how young he looked for his age. But the word that kept repeating itself over and over in every memory or conversation with others was the word community. A noun, not an adjective. So this morning, I would like to talk about that word community as it relates to my father. But I have to start from the beginning, so please forgive me. Neil Miller Belenky was born August 8th, 1944 in Springfield, Massachusetts to Leon and Ethel Belenky. He grew up in a community of families, many of them immigrants from Russia, who moved to the U.S. for a better life. But for my father, it was crowded to say the least. Like many Jewish families of my father's generation, his family, his family's family, his family's family's family, all lived, if not in the same neighborhood, just a stone's throw away. He shared with me that this time in his life was challenging. He leaned on his cousins Susan and Gloria, whom he loved like sisters, and their shared belief that family is a blessing and at times a challenge. They would all eventually look beyond their neighborhoods to find their own communities in life. I have to mention Gloria's sons Mark and Richard, and Susan's children Robbie and Sally. My father was crazy for them, and it was always a priority for my father that my brothers and I remained close to them. Sally, I love you. Neil went on to attend Lake Forest University in Illinois and graduated from American International College in Springfield. As a college freshman in 1964, during the Civil Rights Movement, he volunteered in Birmingham, Alabama, to work with African American students, expand access to integrated colleges and universities, register voters, and engage community members. Something he was very proud of and was to be honored for next month here in Greensboro. Neil went on to earn a master's degree from the University of Connecticut School of Social Work. After meeting my mother, Marilyn Rosen, and marrying in 1968, my father became interested in nonprofit community service and quickly joined a local United Way in Springfield. Not long after, his passion for community engagement drew attention from outside organizations, and the Midwest came calling. This was a bold move for my father. Like many of his generation, you stayed close and you didn't go far in those days. When he talked to his father about the impending decision, my grandfather said without blinking, "Go. Build your life. Find your own community." It was not an easy decision for my dad. He had grown close with his extended family, particularly my mother's family. He loved her parents, Bill and Gladys, and his sister-in-law, Jackie. Even though my parents left Springfield, they remained close to Jackie and her daughters, Lisa and Dana, and later to their wonderful husbands, Maurice and Ashley, and Lisa's daughter, Cleo. Renee and Zelda are in Toronto. Dad loved you both. Okay, got to get back to 72. He and my mother wedged their 2-month-old son tightly in the back seat of his barely drivable Toyota Corolla between the luggage It was the 70s, laws were wild back then. And they headed to Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo, Michigan, that is. From the moment they touched down, it was a community that my father once described as an explosion of middle-class idealism. Nobody seemed to have much money at the time when they first moved there. But he once remarked about it all, it had the one thing that was worth its weight in gold, a strong, robust sense of support for one another and the desire to build a thriving community. Evenings at the Todds, endless card games with the Einsbars. Susie and Fred always won, but it was a loud bloodbath to the finish. The Nordwins, whose son, Timothy J. Nordwin, would become a surrogate son to us and a dear bestie to me, hosted our family during an ice storm one year. And then, of course, the Schmidts, a neighborhood curated by Sharon, who spearheaded memories that lasted for many families near and far a lifetime. My father had shared, reflecting on that magical time, that this was the life he had always wanted. He relished it. My then young father would enter every social gathering armed with a warm hug and a barely remembered joke. He loved his friends, he loved his wife, he loved his 3 sons, he loved his life. My 2 brothers and I were very different. Erik, the oldest, had his head in the books and worried about his future at 11. And yet, I remember my father having comforting conversations with Erik, listening intently to him and offering perspective on the bigger picture. I, on the other hand, had my head in the clouds, always entertained by the company of everyone on and around the television. My father never thought my eccentricities were that eccentric and delighted in my uniqueness. As I got older and forged my own path, his unwavering support made me the person I am today. Let's just say I'm a very proud person. Then there was Stephen, the youngest. Tempered but hilarious, a terror on wheels. And yes, despite the pleas of neighbors and worn-out school professionals, he always had an ally in my dad. They grew incredibly close as adults, and it is Stephen today that I see my father's true character and wisdom. My father's continued leadership at the United Way led him and all of us to Greensboro in 1990. And out the gate, the community once again opened its arms to him and everything he wanted to contribute. To list them would take a year. And I encourage everyone to please read the beautiful obituary my sister-in-law Sally wrote. But if you asked my father about his successes, he would seldom talk about them. Why? Well, he probably didn't remember most of what he did. A family trait passed down to my brothers and me. But that was part of his charm. In all honesty, and this I know to be true, it wasn't something he was ever comfortable bragging about. My father judged a person not by what they did, but who they were. It was a person's character and how they treated others that my father used to measure a person. When my mother passed away in 2017, Steve Masha, Rudy, Claudia Cordone, and many, many, many others put their arms around my father. He took time for himself to grieve, but he eventually found great joy in meeting a band of madcap retirees and working professionals in the bike riding community. Spandex as wide as the eye can see. He met so many colorful characters, many of whom are here today, some with a few bruises from their riding adventures. God bless them. Then in March 2022, Roger and Linda, more friends from his community, reached out to say, hey, we know someone you would like to meet. By way of a Zoom introduction, Kismet brought my father back to Michigan to meet Cindy Weber, a former superintendent, and an accomplished education consultant. After 2 years, they were married, and Cindy courageously joined my father here in Greensboro, and once again, his community welcomed her with open arms. I think you're starting to see a pattern here. Cindy brought with her a sense of travel, fun, and new adventures. My father loved her and wanted to chase everything with Cindy at his side. My father adored his beautiful granddaughters, Maggie and Miller. He always gushed about them and how he loved being in their lives and watching them grow into the fiercely independent people they have become. The second part of the definition of community is defined not just by proximity or shared characteristics, but by a sense of cohesion, mutual support, and feeling of belonging to something larger than oneself. That was my father. That was Neil Belenky. My dad was the menschiest of the mensches. My dad was my best friend. My dad was my hero. And nothing made me prouder than to share him with all of you, members of his many, many communities, many of whom are sitting here today. You and you and you are all his cherished legacy, and he would have absolutely loved this. Thank you.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay. I'm going to keep this really brief, but I just wanted to say a couple things about my grandfather. I think it was this last Thanksgiving, I was sitting with him, and he asked me if I remembered a very special trip that I took with him and my grandmother, Bubby, over to Beach Mountain to the Land of Oz. I think my parents were, I don't know if it was an anniversary trip or something, but they were responsible for us. And I told them there is no way I will ever forget that trip, even though I was very young. So many things happened on that trip, but for those who don't know the Land of Oz, it's like a recreation of the Wizard of Oz. We walk down the yellow brick road, we stay in Dorothy's house. There's a lot of characters, but my sister and I, we're so little, but we both talk about it, just how vividly we remember that trip, specifically my grandparents' terrible sense of direction. I think we ate at the same restaurant the entire trip because we literally could not figure out how to get to another one. I think they stopped every person we saw, who were also just tourists, to figure out how to get everywhere, but I still just remember that trip so fondly. We joke around about how my grandfather drew the short end of the stick and had to share the bed with my sister, who at the time was a really terrible bedfellow. But it was just a really beautiful memory I have of him and of my grandmother together, of just the four of us walking, holding hands down the yellow brick road with all of these adult actors by us. But it was still just such a beautiful, beautiful memory of both of them that I have. I had the privilege, actually, to get to see him a couple weeks ago, really last minute, which seems to be a pattern with me. But I was in Durham for a wedding and texted him the day before, do you have like an hour to spare to drive down, grab brunch? I'd love to see you and Cindy. And didn't know if it was going to happen, but he, despite everything, drove an hour and a half to come and sit and have breakfast with me for 2 hours. Obviously didn't know that that would be last time I saw him, but sorry. I am so, so grateful that I got to have that time with him. He came in. I'm sorry. I think I called my parents after, and I said, he came in looking like a really cute old man. He came in, he was borrowing a walker from his friend, and he came in smiling, rolling over everybody's feet because he had never used it before. He was so happy despite everything he was going through. He put on the biggest smile for me, and We just had a really great time. My dad texted my sister and I the day that he passed, and he texted us, "You know, your grandfather was so proud of you." And that is something that I have heard from everybody who's come up to me, from all of my family, and most of all, from my grandfather. Anytime he texted us, called us, anytime we were with him, he never failed to let my sister Miller and I know just how proud of us he was. And that is something we want to continue to do every day of our lives for both him and my grandmother, Bubby. Thank you, guys.
You know, if you asked Neil to describe his Jewish life, he might answer by letting you know in his signature humble style that he wasn't super Jew. He might even downplay his involvement, let you know he wasn't really spiritual, or offer some other explanation about not doing so much religiously. His actions, however, told a very different story. He was the president of this temple from 1998 until 2000. In 2008, he and Marilyn were honored right here on our bema, on our pulpit, as the Book of the New Year recipients. Marilyn received high praise for her commitment to Temple's volunteer efforts, as well as for her leadership of our senior program known as Friendship Circle. And Neil was praised for the way that he led Temple. As no surprise, the congregation was working on its future. I will quote from the write-up lauding Neil's leadership, reflecting back on that rather contentious time for those who remember it. Neil volunteered to serve on the temple board soon after coming to Greensboro. He became board president during the period of membership decline through the turnaround that had resulted in our current growth. Quote, "The two issues that changed the direction of the temple were getting the right rabbi and developing a facility that supports Jewish life and is a source of pride for congregants," said Neil. Specifically, he served on the search committee that hired Rabbi Gutman. During the time that he was temple president, the issue of where to create a new temple was debated. He guided the congregation through the vote to create a two-temple solution, with the primary temple being constructed on Jefferson Road. Also, he was a central part of all the negotiations over the 2-year period that led to the final vote. However, Neil feels his greatest contribution during that period was to insist that its public debate remain respectful and that there be a transparent decision-making process. Another quote, "Through my temple experiences, I came to understand that effective temple leadership required absolute personal integrity and one eye on the future with the other eye remaining sensitive to the day-to-day needs of the congregation," reflected Neil. Neil, I spoke to Rabbi Gutman late last week. He was so grateful for your leadership. And Neil, personally, the time that you took to meet with me when I was a much younger rabbi and the leadership advice that you shared, those are things, Neil, that I will never forget. Our community, Temple Emmanuel, is so grateful for the work that Neil did together with his dear friend and fellow past president, Ron Milstein, to build Temple's endowment and to encourage legacy giving. That was Neil, always planning for the future and always planting for the future. Neil would stand on this pulpit on many Yom Kippurs over the years for Kol Nidre, an honor that we extend to Temple's past presidents each year. And I will never forget how in 2021, shortly after Juneteenth was recognized as a federal holiday, that Neil spoke at Temple's Juneteenth Shabbat service. I should note that this past Friday night, June the 19th, was our now annual Juneteenth Shabbat service. But on that Friday night 5 years ago, Neil publicly told the story which I'm not going to detail now, about how he was one of the Freedom Riders during the summer of 1964, coming to the American South, to Birmingham, Alabama, to tutor black youth. I had heard that more than half of the Freedom Riders were Jewish. I had also heard that Neil was part of this effort, but that he rarely spoke about it. And I'm so grateful that he stood right here and opened up about the dangers of that time, the meaning of his actions, motivated as they were by his commitment to justice and equality, values which are at the heart of the Jewish tradition. As we heard, Neil will be honored by the International Civil Rights Museum next month. The plan for him was to receive the Unsung Hero Award in person. And so if you would like to be at this event, I encourage you to do so. If you'd like to sit at Temple Emmanuel's table, please let me know or speak with Laura or Brenda at Temple. We would be highly honored for you to be part of our presence. Neil truly did much as a professional and as a volunteer. Years ago, when TED Talks were a big thing, he arranged for a TEDx conference here in Greensboro. I had watched countless TED Talks on the internet, and the only ones that I ever saw in person were thanks to you, Neil. His many accomplishments were done unselfishly. They were heartfelt and intended to serve others. Neil did them with no expectation of public acclaim. He wanted to make the world a better place, to leave it with the potential to be far better than he had known. I had the chance to ask Neil how he wanted to be remembered. His simple answer was, remember me as someone who cared. A caring friend, a caring husband, a caring father, and a caring grandpa. And then he spoke about unexpected blessings, because with Neil, there were always unexpected blessings. He never expected to marry again, and then Cindy came into his life. Cindy, you called it kismet. We heard the word kismet. In Jewish, we say that it was beshert, that the two of you were destined to meet when you did, to tie the knot 2 years ago, and to spend these past 2 years not only as husband and wife, but also as best friends. Neil modeled giving during his life. He leaves an incredible legacy for his family, for our city, for our people, and for the future, having planted much during his nearly 82 years of life and his 36 years here in Greensboro. We will miss him dearly, but we will never, ever forget him. Our hearts go out to his many friends, too many to name now. At this time of remembrance, we're also especially thinking of his extended family, including a number of cousins and nieces already named. And even as we lift up the memory of family who predeceased him, his parents Leon and Ethel, and Marilyn, his wife of 49 years, we send special embraces to his surviving family, to his 3 sons, Erik together with Sally, David, and Stephen together with Rachel, and to his 2 granddaughters, Maggie and Miller. Neil was a dog lover, so extra scratches go to Jameson, Bella, and Lily. And our love and hearts are with Cindy, his bride, his beloved, his intended one, his beshert. If we exercise our spiritual imagination, we might imagine God calling Neil over, "Psst, come on over here," engaging Neil in a chat. Neil loved chatting. And then sharing a divine thank you for all that he did, and especially for bringing more goodness and holiness to our world and planting the trees that he did. Zichrono livracha. May the amazingly holy memory of Neil Belenky always live on as a model, as a blessing, and as an inspiration. As together we all say, Amen. If you're able to do so, I'll ask you to stand now for the traditional El Maleh Rachamim prayer. This is a prayer that will be chanted by our cantor Mitchell Summers, and then I will provide the English translation.
El Maleh Rachamim Shochein Bamromin Amse menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina im kedoshim urtorim kizohar harakia mazhirim et nishmat Yitzchak Nehemiah ben Lian ve'Ethel shehalach la'olamo Ba'al harachamim yasiretu b'sete knafav le'olamim Vitror hachaim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar
Amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, we ask now that you grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Neil Belenky, who has entered into eternity. You're the God of mercy. Let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul forever be bound in the bond of everlasting life. God, you are his earned inheritance. May he forever rest in peace. As we join our voices to say, Amen. Interment, friends, interment will take place at the Greensboro Hebrew Cemetery 30 minutes from now, which will be right around 11:15 a.m. Note that we will not be going in a traditional processional. Just go directly to the cemetery if you will be coming. It just becomes too challenging and even dangerous to put on our headlights and blinkers. Allow the family, please, to get to the transport vehicles, and we ask at this time that you don't visit with the family in our lobby area or in the small area right outside of Temple in the courtyard adjacent to our congregation. The Greensboro Hebrew Cemetery is on the corner of Van Story and High Point Road, Gate City Boulevard, excuse me. You can get there by directing your GPS to the Greensboro Hebrew Cemetery. If you'd like to be an additional source of comfort to the family, to visit with them, they will be gathering at the Belenky home on Asher Lane for a Shiva service this afternoon at 5:45 p.m. At this time, I would like to ask for Temple's past presidents to please stand and take your places lining the aisles as honorary pallbearers. And would the designated pallbearers please come forward?